Strutting the Sonics is back, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite heavy albums from this year. Some of them are anticipated, some of them I really needed to listen to because I haven't listened to them when they came out. Some I just found on Bandcamp and got extremely obsessed over, kind of. A Door Left Open by Orthodox was an album I've been anticipating earlier this year. I've listened to all the singles, and I learned one of the singles on drums, but I haven't had that filmed. There's a lot of horror movie stuff in the music videos, and it's pretty much a theme throughout. And A Door Left Open, a lot of stuff about finding the unknown, what's out there. I think I anticipated this album to be a lot more nu metal. It's pretty unpredictable to a point where it becomes predictable. The ending track to the album, it's Will You Hate Me? I think if you listen to it a few times, it's kind of like how A Love to Kill For, its title track by Chamber, becomes a lot more predictable after listening to it a few times. I think it's because that one is verse, chorus. There's some heavy moments that I really like the pinch harmonic breakdowns in Godless Grace and Commit to Consequence, and then the heavy riffs in songs like Dreadweight blend in with the weak Sacred Place and Step Aside. And Mike White does a really good job on the drums in Keep Your Blessings. Like I said, I played that song. I learned that song, actually, despite not filming myself playing it. Like I said, I was expecting them to go in a more nu metal or accessible direction after learning to dissolve. But at least you can listen to the songs individually. Yeah, it's one of those albums where you can, listen to the song without concern of order, or you can play them in order, one or two songs. It doesn't matter. Primeval followed by My Ticket Home was another album I anticipated. I listened to all 4 singles and learned 3 of them. Flooded Eyes wasn't really something I vibed with, kind of because of verse chorus thing, but I caught on to it. I guess it's a grower. It's got its heavy moments in Tear Joint and Black Skies, which is one of my favorite songs because of its main riff and its machine gun breakdown. Urethane and Spliced also have machine gun breakdowns. Urethane has a pretty cool harmonic riff after the chugging in the verses. One of My Ticket Home's best nu metal moments, along with The Weakest Wound, which is just nu metal all over, kind of like a Slipknot song. It's I'll take anything that rips off Slipknot out over Slipknot themselves. Weakest Wound and Spliced are filler tracks. I think the weakest tracks on the album, very weak filler, are Drive the Nail and Don't Go Hollow. I was expecting a lot more from Drive the Nail, just from the snippets of what was posted on the gram by Derek Blevins and Nick Jumenti. Then Don't Go Hollow, I don't know, I was expecting a lot more from Don't Go Hollow. I was expecting it to be the Baited Onto Hook song that My Ticket Home posted on the gram as well. I feel Drive the Nail might grow onto me more than Don't Go Hollow. And then Black Skies and One for the Garden. One for the Garden is kind of a world-ending song. It's not just album ending, it is world ending. like the main riff, and then that being the breakdown, and then you've got a little bit of Deftones going on there, and then a lot of stuff where Nick Giamenti's talking about the world's innocence. I think the album is a good mixture of Unreal and Strangers Only. I think even more than Through the Needle's Eye itself. That one was their 2018 single. It's a lot more Unreal with a little bit of Strangers Only. But Pure to a Fault is 12 tracks more of that. Aside from If You Can Understand, which is a 9 Inch Nails type interlude. My only problem is it's a bit too mechanical, and Nick has showed playing bass in the studio, but not live, which is a bit of a letdown. But it is an epic comeback by the band after 8 years of inactivity. Their last album was Unreal back in 2017, and then they come back with Pure to a Fault. Deadguy's Near-Death Travel Services is their first album in 30 years. It's classic Deadguy, and they're almost fully reunited. They got a different bassist from the day when Tim Singer left after fixation on a coworker. The album songs have a spoken word quality in the lyrics, and like each track tells a story, like The Forever People and War with Strangers, which are respectively about anti-bigotry and, well, arguing on the internet. The first track's Kilfie and Barnburner are like classic Deadguy fare, but Barnburner is like faster, it's almost like a thrash song. And Kilfie has this cool sludgy section towards the end. And then the final two tracks have their take on capitalism and the system and all that jazz. Like All Stick and No Carrot is capitalism, and Wax Princess is like anti-system, like building a cage like a cage and pretending it's a castle. I'm very glad I got to listen to a Deadguy album that was made in the 21st century. And I'm glad I got to listen to it this year. A Vivid Depiction of Collapse by Wounded Touch is an album I missed listening to, just by a little bit, compared to Primeval by Tallah. I'll get to that later. But yeah, Vivid Depiction is colorful and a bit more accessible. You can tell with tracks like Shield of White Roses, which is basically Autumn Part 2. It's like a sequel to Autumn from their first album, American Anxiety. And then every grieving piece just turns up the melody by 11. And then there's Consequence and Broadcast. It's not as melodic as Shield of White Roses and Every Grieving Piece, but there is a structure to it, like Shield of White Roses. You can tell that Wounded Touch is very inspired by video games. You've got tracks like Save Point, which is basically an interlude into the next half, and then And Taketh, which is sort of like an instrumental thing where Nick, the vocalist, is singing about like dead heroes and stories. I'm very glad that the lyrics are on the Bandcamp site for this album, unlike with American Anxiety. I had to go on Shazam to find lyrics for songs on American Anxiety, just so I can understand them. Because the vocal production is like, I know it's like punk rock and it's supposed to be, abrasive, but I like to understand lyrics. So I guess a little bit of clarity wouldn't hurt. yeah, it's very aware and current on external and internal levels. The external levels are the damming variable, which is basically don't use artificial intelligence as a mean to make art. Then an unscarred purpose and vultures await them sun are basically the vocalist talking about having a newborn child and it's swearing to protect them from like everything and making the world good for him, like providing something safe for him. It's funny how American Anxiety ends off on a soft note and then Wounded Touch makes an epicer follow-up album by not ending on a softer note, because Vultures Await Them Sun is like heavy. But yeah, the verdict is Vivid Depiction is heavier than American Anxiety and epicer. Mikau's Agartha is another Reddit find, like Wounded Touch songs from Vivid Depiction. Unlike Wounded Touch, Mikau are inspired by bands by Wristmeat Razor and See You Space Cowboy more than Norma Jean. And there's a lot of hyperpop and cybergrind stuff going on in there. Like in Spiraling Decay. Like, after the riff, it goes straight into blast beats. You've got your blast beats and reverie as well. It's also intensely heavy. Like, Wounded Touch is Norma Jean heavy. Mikau is nuclear heavy. Like, atomic heavy. Heavy. You hear it in tracks like Neophyte, which is kind of like a song Wristmeat Razor would have made for Degeneration. And then 7 Days of Fire is really heavy. And then we've got your catchy choruses and Spiraling Decay and Wraith and Reverie. There's a good mix of melody and the album. And there's a very funny like hyperpop song, Not Alone. It's like a very, I guess, faster version of that really annoying hyperpop song Sugar Crash. I'd take listening to Not Alone and being haunted in my sleep by that song than listening to Sugar Crash or its a crappy remix version of it. But yeah, Agartha was released in March of this year, and I really hope that Mikau releases some more. Blood Quantum Blues is a pure Bandcamp find. It's pretty interesting because it sounds like grindcore meets 80s metal meets Sega Genesis. The drummer of the band has a sister handling electronics. I don't think she's played a lot of... I'm not sure if she's actually played any like Sonic the Hedgehog games like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but that's what some of the songs sound like, with the electronic bits sprinkled here and there. Especially in Mutiny, which is one of their more experimental songs, along with Chemical Bath. Some of my favorite tracks off the record are Spill, which is like fast out the gate. Least is fast too, and it has a cool, like, chill interlude. And then Night Flight is a little tame, but it is catchy with the riffs, and the title track, Blood Quantum Blues, always goes hard. I've listened to the band's whole discography, like almost their whole discography, and I gotta listen to like all of it again. Orbit Culture's Death Above Life is epic and heavy. There are moments where the band goes like thal, but that's just because some songs like Hydra and Death Above Life are tuned severely low. Like Hydra is like all one note and it's like a very low E, and they managed to make a song out of that. And Death Above Life is kind of the same thing with Turian's Blood Quantum Blues, in which the title track always goes hard. As I always say, I always think the title tracks go hard. Then Bloodhound is their Slipknot song, but I'll take it out over actual Slipknot. And you've got your arena ready epic songs like Nerve and The Tales of War, which has a chorus where just like one phrase screamed and then Nicholas is just screaming the rest of the words. Then Inferna is like a long opener, but it's a very good opener. Another good Orbit culture to add to their discography. Silly Goose's Keys to the City is well heard of compared to their first studio album, The Streets Heard It First, which the only song that I think people actually cared about is Show Up at Your House because the band uploaded it to their YouTube page. They're like a heavier Limp Bizkit from Atlanta, Georgia, with a little bit of Linkin Park in there. You can hear it in Keys to the City and Now Dance. And a little bit in other songs like hold on. Playing Games and Split. You've got your obvious gimmick songs like Cowboy, Traffic, and The Great Dino Escape. My favorite one of those three is probably Traffic, just because it's one of their faster songs. And it's a single, so I probably remember it more. They would have totally ripped Limp Bizkit apart in 2001, or been ripped apart just for being, well, maybe not just like a heavier version of them, but just sounding like them. If anything, I think they sound like Revi. But yeah, these guys would have been bigger in 2001. I feel it. Tallah's Primeval Obsession Detachment is a very weird new core album, but it's very Tallah for that reason. It's another one of their concept albums. This time it has the characters, a nurse and an assassin, and its overarching concept is fate, as explained throughout the album. Max Portnoy is playing bass on this, which you can find some very good bass lines in songs like The Very Melodic Depleted and that one goofy bit in Attachment, which is just Tallah being themselves. It's also one of the Primeval songs, along with Obsession, which is basically a Tool song, where Max really lets his bass lines shine through that. There's some more heavy moments in songs like What We Know, where it starts off acoustic, but I think before the back half, it goes full electric. And then the breakdowns in Augmented, Undone by Fate, and What We Want are stunning. It's like you can feel it coming, but you're not quite ready for it enough. Like, you're not ready enough. This album goes into their weirder, funkier new metal side. And it's a splendid addition to their discography. Chevelle's Bright as Blasphemy is their shortest album to date, apparently. It's only 9 tracks long. I was excited that there was finally new Chevelle material, because Chevelle is one of my most shaping bands in the Sheenboka 55 sound. And they're the reason I tuned down to C-sharp standard or drop B. Pale Wolf starts the album off strong with drifts, and then Cowards 1 and 2 are kind of a highlight. Cowards 1, Rabbit Hole, it's got a lot of Pete Leftworth singing higher this time, which is more than sprinkled throughout the album. It gets annoying. I wish he was singing just about high enough to sing as high as Maynard James Keenan. I wish his range was more kept in the area it was from about point number 1 to Hats Off to the Bull or Sci-Fi Crimes. And then AI Phobias is another highlight of the album. It's very relevant. They've tackled stuff like conspiracies and distrust in political figures on their concept album Neuritious, which I have not listened to for some reason. They're also letting their touring bassist on the album do some bass lines, which I thought is pretty cool. I checked out his band Ages. His name's Kemble Walters. He plays guitar and sings in that band. It's pretty good. And so is Bright as Blasphemy. I haven't listened to it a second time in full, but I will again after this uploads and on the website.